So this is a little video about how to do standard error 95% confidence limits. I've got an example here of some data about grip strength in dominant and non-dominant hand. So in each case there were 7 samples taken. And so if we're going to calculate standard error 95% confidence limits, the first thing we need to do is calculate standard deviation. So standard deviation is equal to the square root of the sum of x bar, that's the mean, so you'd do the mean of the 7 values, minus the value itself. So each time you'd take that value, for example, away from the mean, and then you'd square that, and you'd divide it by n minus 1. You can just do it by n. N is the number of samples, so there are 7 samples. So I put the data into Excel so you can see me work with it to complete the calculation. So first thing I need to do is I need to find out the mean of these values. So I'm just going to do, I can't do that, can I? Go to average, click on that, of the values. So that's all of them added together and divided by the number, which is 7, and then I need to do each time the mean minus this value. So I do this is equal to, that's the mean, minus the value itself. Now you can't do this way, you'll have to do it in your calculator, and you can use both the method you've learned in maths and the method you've learned in biology, but I'm doing it a quick way using a spreadsheet. So then that is my mean minus my value in each case, and then I need to do that value squared, so that value multiplied by itself, and now I need to do that for all my values. Then I need the sum of all of those values, so this equals the sum of all of these values, and then I need to divide it by n minus 1, so I need this value divided by 6 because n is 7 samples, and then I need the square root of that, which is square root of that value. And so now I've got my standard deviation, but I still need to work out the standard error and 95% confidence limit. So if we look in this document, standard error equals standard deviation divided by the square root of n, so the square root of 7, and then 95% confidence limits equals 2 times 95% confidence limits equals 2 times the standard error, or 2 times the standard error above and below the mean. So if I go back to my data, I basically need to do my value divided by the square root of n and the square root of n. So I just take this equals my value, I divide it by, I'm going to have to put the square root of 7, sorry. Doesn't even make sense, it can't be a negative value. It's divided by, not minus, that's why I got that problem. So divided by, so it's 0.8, but then I've got to multiply that by 2, so it equals 2 times that value. So my standard error 95% confidence limits in this case is 1.638, and so I add that to and take that away from my mean. But I would just write it so it's, I'll show you now. So I'd write my answer to for dominant hand as 30.74, which is the mean, plus or minus 1.64, which is the 95% confidence limits. And then you now need to work out the 95% confidence limits, stand down 95% confidence limits for the other set of data. Why don't you have a go at that, pause the video, and then when you've done it, start the video again, and I'll give you the answer to that, and you can compare your own workings. So you should have found that the answer was 26.13 plus or minus 2.48. Now what you need to do is be able to interpret the statistic, so I will show you that in my next video.